right, Matt. Let's talk about Returnal. Let's start off with the good, because we have some things to get at it.
Yep.
I'll let you go first because I'm happy you're here.
Happy to be here. Well, what can I say that hasn't been repeated and exaggerated by the multitudes who've been lavishing this game with praise since before it launched? I will say that it plays extremely well. It feels really good to play. The gunplay is really tight. I'm usually not a fan of third-person shooters. It's rare that I want a game in third person where you're shooting things to be really challenging because for whatever reason, I just feel like I have less control. But I do think that the haptic feedback, all the audio visual cues, especially if you're playing this game with headphones, which I have to give it up to the sound engineers and the audio designers. Like, the 3D audio is something people harp on about, and I tend to distrust unanimous praise of anything, but the audio has been fantastic. I mean, I can usually hear something and know exactly where to turn, and the sense of distance and scale in pretty much every environment that I've been in has been really impressive and informative, more importantly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of design choices that they made that I think came together in a really intelligent way that make it that it just kind of removes any friction between you and what is already a really difficult experience. The map is another really great, like, in-game maps are something that people almost never talk about, but the map in this game is really, it's really useful and it's really smart. It's just a really detailed 3D, like, topographical layout of it. It's just, you know exactly where you are in relation to where you've been. I like that they have simple icons for everything. Mm-hmm. It's just smart. The way the game plays you can tell a lot of thought went into it, and they tried to smooth out any rough edges that may come between the player and the experience. So I appreciate that. I think if I had to call out the thing that I have enjoyed the most, it's been that attention to detail. But the action itself, I found very compelling. I have yet to meet a weapon that I really, really don't like. Okay. I think some are definitely way more useful than others.
Yeah.
There's some weapons that I would probably not elect to use if I had an alternative. Like the rocket launcher, just the ammo capacity is so small that it's hard for me to find it useful, but it's still fun. And it feels punchy and nice to use. So, I think just the overall, the thoughtfulness, the way they kind of crafted each little bespoke element in such just a well thought out way. It really, it's a cliche to say, but I think it really is one of those games where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, if I may. And the weapons all feel really good to use. So just as a thoughtful action game and as an iteration in this kind of crowded genre, I think they've done a really good job and crafted something that almost always feels, looks, and sounds extremely satisfying. What about yourself? I know you've enjoyed it, and I know we both have our criticisms, but what have you enjoyed the most?
I really like the way you put that, where reducing the friction. You're such a great writer. Because it does feel, what I like about House Marquee is that they kind of come from this like Nintendo mentality to me, where it feels like when they made their big statement, arcade is dead, we're not going to focus on these little games anymore. Fine, we'll make a big AAA game, but they said gameplay's still going to be king. And I think so much of this game, you can feel every little detail. Like, if I'm just focusing on the gameplay, the vibration is beautiful. Like, you can feel the vibration moving through the controller. I haven't felt that vibration so effective since Mario Odyssey, when you're the electric guy going across.
Right.
And like you said, the map is, I usually hate maps, but they so quickly show you a triangle door as a side door. A blue one means there's something new behind it. You can really quickly just run along. Like they think about how fast a door should open so that you can run and not break your stride.
Yeah.
all the guns feel really great. The sound design, the look, the detail of it. It's just really fun. It's like a fun way to run around and shoot the hell out of things and dodge things and have this bullet hell where everything feels pretty fair. Like I heard so much about, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be so hard. And I really don't think the actual none of the combat really feels too unfair. I've heard some people complain about later on they spawn into a room and they get just blitzed by a lot of things. And I haven't really run into that yet. But yeah, it's kind of like if Nintendo, like a Nintendo level of design and this old school mentality of like gameplay first and arcade shooting brought into life. So basically just iterating what you said, it feels amazing, but let's get on to sort of what our problems are with it. Because I could still recommend this to basically anybody who enjoys a challenging shooter. You do have to enjoy the challenge. But for me, when I'm playing this game, I'm always thinking, God, I wish this was a Metroidvania, or I wish this was a linear game that was, and you could even up the challenge. I would be so happy if this was like a 15-hour straight, carefully manufactured experience. I don't know what the benefit of this being a roguelike is to make it longer. Roguelikes first came out because you were working with very limited resources. Were first made in like ASCII interface. So when I'm playing this, I just think, why is this better? Like I get, okay, I love that they work into the story, you dying and coming back and looping, but that's not exclusive to roguelikes. You could put that in Mario. Like every game, almost every single game, you die and you start over. So I'm
thinking Soulsborne. Soulsborne games do that, and they're not roguelites.
Yeah, like if this was just set up like a Dark Souls game with, I just want a checkpoint, and they do work on, like they finally start introducing some shortcuts, but it just kind of feels like it's half of a Metroidvania, and I just don't think there's enough in here that varies on the runs to make it worth being a roguelike for me, which is kind of frustrating. So what do you think about it?
I have a lot of concerns to unpack. I have a lot of frustrations and annoyances to unpack, and I'll say
I think it's the first time I might be the more positive person on one of our shows.
It's possible. Let me just use your previous point as kind of a segue, and I'll start there. I don't, again, we'll just put it out there that you and I are both in the third biome. So there's a lot of the narrative that we have yet to explore and uncover. There could be just a phenomenal tie into this death and rebirth loop that we just are unaware of. So
so far it's been all set up. And that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So like you said, I'm going to start with the environments. When this game was about to launch, there was so much praise heaped onto it. I saw a few different outlets make a comment to the tune of, this feels like the first actual like full PS5 game we've played.
Yep, I saw that headline too.
Digital Foundry even said that it pushed the PS5 to its limits to great effect. And I thought, okay, we're going to be blown away here.
Right.
And I don't think the artistic direction they took with these biomes is not doing them any favors. I don't really like the first biome, which is where you end up spending a lot of time. If you look at any like tips section, or you look at veterans who are on their second New Game Plus, like something they always say is like, never skip a room in the first biome. That's where you need to get a lot of your weapon proficiency built up, and that's where you want to collect a lot of the resin and boost your, like, go all out in the first biome. Well,
every time
it's what they say. I mean, that's what's recommended, but to my chagrin, because after like my fourth or fifth run, the first biome had kind of worn out its welcome for me. It's very samey. It's dark and kind of one note. It's a little interesting. They do a little bit of environmental storytelling, nowhere near as successfully or effectively as they do in the Soulsborne games, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it seems almost like a tech demo, strange alien world that they just kind of fleshed out as they went along. It doesn't. I'm not convinced that this is a real place. Whereas almost any locale in any of the Dark Souls games feels like a believable dark fantasy setting with its own storied past that you're kind of encroaching upon and invading in a way.
And I think, like, real quick, I also think that because they want this to be a roguelike, they have to come up with this idea of, well, we'll just switch everything around to keep it interesting. And I think that that makes it really tough to make it feel like a believable place. If it just feels like rooms you've made that have been, you press shuffle on.
Right. And don't even try to, like, they just kind of threw in a narrative justification. Like, she just had a voice line like, the world is changing around me. Like,
yeah, like a movie trailer. The world has changed.
Like, you guys, you don't have to try to tie it in. And like, it's not deep. Anyway. So, and again, like, I can understand how technically demanding it may be, but I don't think it looks that. Did you play Astro's Playroom?
I did.
The free packet. Like, I don't know, for my money, which that game is free, I think it's the better looking game. And, there's something to be said about how colorful it is. And, like, obviously I'm comparing apples with tangerines, like, totally different. But it feels like I'm supposed to be wowed by the amount of rain and fog.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Like, I guess fog is a very technically expensive effect, because for Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade, like, they have a whole section of the Intergrade trailer that's like, we have fog now. I'm like, fucking cool. Like, that's cool.
I think ray tracing, fog, blades of grass, they're these things, like you say, they're technically expensive, but they are right in that Venn diagram of diminishing returns, where you can, like, Splatoon. When I think about the best looking games, I think Splatoon 1, 2, Mario Odyssey. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. When I think of, like, how good the blades of grass and the artistic impact Breath of the Wild has, playing on my Wii U or a Switch compared to The Witcher. And I know that when you see The Witcher trying to run on a Switch, it's because, well, we have to animate all this grass. It's like, I just think that, like, there's some footage behind me and there's a lot of shiny kind of stuff. And like you're saying, fog is really hard to do perfectly. But I mean, we've had fog in games before. Maybe, I guess they're just trying to find ways to make it look better, but it's I don't know, they're barking up the wrong tree for me.
It's just not interesting enough, and it's not beautiful to look at, and it's not even, like, foreboding in an interesting way. And I apologize for bringing up the Soulsborne games constantly, but, like, I'm not exactly sure what they were going for there, knowing that we were going to be going through these environments. And the second biome is just like Mars desert to me. It's just red brown everywhere. The third biome is a little more architecturally more diverse,
it's kind
which
of a
I
hybrid
appreciate.
of the both.
Yeah, but it's still like, I don't know.
But if this wasn't a roguelike, and you only had to go through it until you got through, like, say you only spent 2 hours there, like, the first couple hours I was in the first biome, I thought, oh, I was totally bought in, and then just when it would get boring, they could introduce the house section, and then you could go and you could fight a boss, and I would have been totally satisfied. But to know that, and I'm also attaching, oh, I just died, and I'm back at this fucking ship again in this place, and I know that if I just run through, it's not going to work, and that you do have to just take your time and try to enjoy getting the upgrades. But the upgrades, there's just not enough variety. Like, when you play Hades, if you pick a different weapon, it's totally gonzo a different game. Whereas this, like, yeah, the weapons are different, and like but the upgrades aren't different. They don't really change how you play. It's just, oh, you can repair a little bit more, 10% here and there. It's not like the difference between having a shield as a weapon or a bow or a sword.
Since you brought up Hades, let me also just harp on something here. And this is kind of going back to, this is mainly a gripe with maybe the outlets covering this game. What I wasn't interested in Returnal until I saw multiple outlets say something to the tune of, it's like a mesh between Hades and Alien. And when I heard Hades meets Alien, I thought, okay, I'm in. Because if you're describing Alien as kind of like inspiring the setting and the tone and the feel of this, like, mysterious hostile alien planet and this race of aliens, and you're not sure what they're capable of, or if they're friendly or if they're foes, like, that's great. And if the game side of things is, if people are comparing it to Hades, there's so many roguelites that people could compare this game to. But because I saw Hades mentioned multiple times, that told me a couple things. That said, I'm going to be fascinated by this story. Like 1 or 2 runs in, I'm going to care about these characters, and I'm going to start unraveling a mystery that's going to be so fascinating to me. And it's going to be, when people compare it to Hades, it tells me that it's going to be extremely character driven. I did not get any of that so far. And listen, I'm maybe 12 or 13 hours into this game. So granted, I have a lot to explore and learn and discover. But with Hades, after like hour 3, on my first run, I thought Zagreus was an interesting character. On the first run, I was having extremely interesting, like, interpersonal exchanges with this fantastic cast of characters.
Yeah.
In Returnal, you just have the one protagonist. And even though she's brilliantly voiced, I think the voice actress, and I don't know her name off the top of my head, I think the delivery of her lines are really great. The character is not interesting enough to carry an entire narrative on her own back alone.
Especially when you want to keep it mysterious.
They keep it too mysterious.
Yeah.
Let me say this. Obscurity does not always mean mystique. Like, sometimes you just obscure things and occult things, and all it does is make people confused. And all the voice lines are like, it just kills me, where like you can't even get a clear hint at lore. You have to collect these little codexes to unscramble hints at lore. Like, just tell me something about the damn planet I'm on to make me interested in this game. Like, tell me something about this character that makes me care about her, not have I been here before? Or was it my mother that, no, it can't be. And then you go like, okay, I guess that was a mysterious delivery and it's hinting that there's something, but like, you literally don't even give me breadcrumbs. Like, give me anything I can chew on and wonder about and daydream about and reach for. It's just nothing. It's all obscure so far. And I'm 3 biomes in, and like I said, about a dozen hours. Like, I understand, but some people beat this on the first run. A guy beat it in 1 run.
What?
Some people, like, if I'm 12 hours into a game and I don't know how to care about the character or the world I'm in, you made a mistake somewhere along the way, and you damn sure don't need to be getting your game compared to Hades, which is just such a narrative and relational treasure. It's just that game shines in all the ways that I feel like Returnal is lacking for me.
Yeah, the thing with Hades is that when they reward you when you die, because you have new currency to mess around with, and now you get to see all your friends again.
Yes.
You have this bar you can go to. You've got it's like this mini Stardew Valley where you've got a ton of characters, and you can and a good roguelike should have a decision where you go, I have a limited resource. Who do I give this gift to? Who do I want to learn a bit more about? So if you're not jiving with that character, you can go over to this one and they might give you something. You don't know what it is. And it can drastically affect how you play. Whereas this, like the voice actor doesn't have a lot to work with. The first couple hours, I was like, okay, I like this planet. And then, okay, now I'm tired of the first biome. Okay, well, there's this house. I'm really liking where this is going. Okay, now there's nothing for a long time. Now there's some aliens, new ones. Okay, but then you get worn out on that. I just got to the 3rd time through the house, and I was really ready for something. I had kind of a chills moment when you see this.
I've only been in the house once.
Okay,
I've only ever found the key on 1 run.
You don't need to find the key again, but when you go through it, if there's a light on, you can go in.
Oh, okay.
And I've gone through, but you're probably just whipping through that first biome.
I'm just sprinting by the house at this point, yes.
But see, I once you get the grappling hook in it, then I was like, okay, well, now there's more to see in the first area, which would work so much better as a Metroidvania, because then you could just come back and you're like, right, this old place. Right. I haven't seen it for a while. Not like I see this place every time. It's like being married to somebody for 50 years and every day you wake up and they say the same thing to you. You feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Like, it's shifted around a bit, but it's still the same stuff. So the house. You get through these, you start reading some more stuff, and like you were saying, I mean, you've only been there once. It doesn't really change. They keep kind of breadcrumbing a little bit, but I was giving it such a benefit of the doubt, and they just totally gave me kind of a bunch of random stuff where I was like, all right, you're starting to lose me, and you need something to keep me going here. And if you would have just had more cutscenes when you would die, like you need to have that reward. Oh man, the whole time I'm playing this, I just think I want a 15-hour, very nicely cultured experience, hand cut. I want the artisan version of this. I don't want let's just pad it up and make it big.
I would have loved that. I would have loved that if they could have made it more of a Metroidvania or like a Soulsborne where it's more of a linear, or even just a semi-open and interconnected like a Soulsborne or God of War kind of thing where you're exploring this world. And I'm hoping that by the time I do finish this game and I realize why it is a roguelite and why it's called Returnal, I'm hoping that maybe a bunch of stuff clicks at the end that makes me I don't know. Maybe they're about to knock my lights out with some plot twist that I don't see coming, and I hope they do. But let me also say, if I got this game, here's something very petty. This is the first. This is the first game that I've paid new generation full price for. So in US dollars, I paid about $75 for this game.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that is playing into why I've been a little disappointed. If I was still pressed and I got this game for free, I would probably feel differently about it. I maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have expected, as a return for my purchase and for my $75, an experience that pushes my PS5 to the limits and blows me. Maybe if I just got a code sent to me in my email, I would have just been really pleasantly surprised by everything that I played, and I would have been talking about this more favorably. But I did drop $75 for this game, and I could have bought 4 great Switch games on sale for that amount of money.
Yeah.
And it stings a little bit because so far I'm having an okay time, but mainly it's been tempered by expectations that were kind of set up pre-launch that the game has yet to meet for me. I don't think I'm that hard to please. I don't think I'm just being a game snob.
You're not. You think Tokyo
really
Mirage Sessions is really good.
Yeah, okay. And it is.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Money's a big part of it. This is, dude, I'm in Canada, and this was over $100 with tax. And I do see a lot of people online talking about, because roguelikes have always been indie games, and they're they were created as a way to stretch your resources. And I think that trying to procedurally generate this, I just don't think it works on this scale. When you're trying to have a showcase game and you're trying to have really impressive environments, I just don't think the format works really well together. And it's a real bummer. This was the first game that made me excited about getting a PS5. I don't usually buy consoles day one, but during one of those Sony events, they showed showed whatever, the Call of Duty will be on both platforms, GTA 5 again and again. And then when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, a sci-fi game, and it looks really mysterious, and the world changes. And I was so pumped for months. And then I heard roguelike. I thought, oh. I mean, Hades is an amazing game. I haven't beaten it because I just don't really like roguelikes, but I have enjoyed my time with Hades. And I'm more excited.
I hope you go back to it.
Yeah,
it's worth pushing through.
I think I've gotten through two bosses, 3 bosses or something, but enough to know that, okay, I see why it's a roguelike, and enough to know that this does not have that. And it's been a real bummer that, because I want to love so much about this, I just get so, it's, like a really good game are those ones where it's like one more run or one more hour, one more little bit. This game feels like when you die, it's like, all right, I don't have the patience for this anymore. I'm going to switch over.
They dropped the ball with making death interesting because, you nailed it with Hades. It is a savory treat. It is a reward every time you die because you get to explore these really interesting relationships, and there are multiple kinds of permanent upgrades that you make that feel very meaningful. And just having kind of randomized perks that will unlock on certain guns the more you use them, and that's the main permanent upgrade. And there are traversal things as you've seen, but it's not enough to make the death and then restart process.
Yeah.
There's no urgency there for me when I die. I really have to take stock and think, do I want to do this for 2 more hours, or do I just want to play some more Overwatch? And let me tell you, 6 times out of 10, the answer to that question has been it's Overwatch time.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a mobile game, and when Returnal, when it crushes my spirit, I tell them, sorry, you've used up all your credit for today. I need to recharge and get my will back. Was there anything else you wanted to add on this? I think we've basically laid it out. I mean, would you, in terms of recommendation, I think, man, I hate to say wait for a sale on it.
That's exactly what I said to my friend.
Yeah, but because I love the developer, and I think they just made such a good game, and it feels like somewhere along the way they went, oh, let's make it a roguelike, and that'll be so cool, and we'll call it Returnal. And I think that they got stuck. And making a video game is tough because I've said it before. It's like jumping out of a plane. You got to build a parachute on the way down, and you don't know what it's going to be like at the end until you're there. And I'm happy to support them because I love so much of what they do, and I want to see it do well. But I think even people who really like roguelikes are probably going to feel a bit ripped off. People who wanted a Mass Effect sci-fi shooter are going to feel like, what the fuck is this? People who wanted like the Metroidvania part are going to... It's trying to do too much. And it's kind of like Outriders had a similar problem where you go, man, I would have loved to see the game that the developers wanted to make, not what Square Enix told Outriders to make. So, oh my God, I think I would have to say a tough wait for a sale unless what you're hearing and seeing, you think you can live with the punishment for the runs. Maybe you're like a more hardcore gamer than these two wimps here keep talking about Nintendo.
Or if you love bullet hells. The one piece of advice I would say is just go watch game. I wanted to go into this as blind as possible because once I saw the comparisons to Hades and Alien, I thought, blackout. I'm not watching any more videos, no more previews. I'm not watching any reviews. I'm going to be surprised and fall in love with this game from the beginning, from scratch, which is what I did with Hades, and it was such a rewarding experience. But watch gameplay, and if it interests you, because it's much more like a bullet hell third person. Like I wish people would have compared it more to kind of like a bullet hell Soulsian-esque roguelite. I feel like that would have set my expectations more in line with where they needed to be rather than comparing it with Hades and Alien. It's if you know you love Hades and it's important to you that dying yields really interesting and meaningful progression before you start your next run. This game is not going to keep you hooked like Hades might have. But if you're a fan of like old school 1980s Space Invaders, but you want a modern version of that, if story is not super meaningful to you in a game, if you just want a really tough 3D shooter, I mean, like the 3D platforming and traversal is some of the best I've ever played. It's the gameplay is great. Yeah. The gameplay is so tight, and again, very thoughtful. And I might say that since Astro's Playroom, this is maybe the most successful use of everything that the DualSense has to offer.
Yeah.
I really like the halfway trigger pull for your main fire and the full pull for your secondary fire.
Because it's so fun to just like really dig in and then bam, you launch that alt fire. It's a good showcase for that for sure. But it is. There's like tech demo and then there's kind of sticking the whole landing. So.
And there was a magical moment the first time I booted it up when I was wearing really nice headphones and you can hear the rain and you can feel the raindrops, which is something that also happens in Astro's Playroom at one point. You can just feel the little tippy taps all over the controller. And then when you push the pause menu to go into the map, the rain becomes extremely muffled. And again, the 3D audio mixing is just so brilliant. And it sounds like you're in an actual rain shower in real life with like, a big plastic box pulled over your head is just very satisfying. So it's the way it feels and the way it plays, very satisfying. So if you're gameplay first, you love a good challenging experience, bullet hell is your thing, and you're confident that you can take on these challenges, and the challenge itself is rewarding enough for you, then it's probably a game you're really going to enjoy. If you need personal development, character development, and relationships, and a story that sucks you in, and emotions, probably not gonna do it for you.
And that's the caveat of we're halfway through.
Of course,
it could all tie together. But indeed. I think that there's a part of gameplay where you need to be compelled to want to get to that point as well. And
Yep.
and I'm kind of over this excuse of like, oh, it gets really good. Like, the more I hear people talk about games, the more I'm convinced that the ending of a game will forever change how somebody feels about it. Because if a game, I've played a lot of games that have a killer ending, and I'm streaming it, and people are talking to me going, oh, well, this part's really bad, but it gets good. And it feels like half the time they're telling me, this part also sucks. Just give it a bit. So it's all about sticking that landing. It's like the diver going off the diving board and not making a splash.
I'm too old for that now. That's why I can't play Persona 5. If somebody, if people keep telling me like, if you can get past the first 3 palaces, like, dog, that's 25 hours. If a game can't be good for 25 hours, like, I'm sorry, I don't have that much free time anymore.
And you are a Persona super fan.
Tell me about it. I was so disappointed that I could not stick with Persona 5. Maybe I will one day.
I didn't like the writing. I got to the gangster boss who tries to frame you for something, and I thought, I don't believe any of these characters. I don't like the situation. This is not Persona 4.
Yeah, it's not the warm and fuzzy people you care about like Persona 4.
Persona 4, I think, oh yeah, remember going on that school camping trip and Yukiko trying to cook and it's sucking and like...
This is a totally different podcast episode now. We're just going to talk about
the good old days. Oh, okay, so we're a bunch of old guys who like Nintendo games and the good old days. All right.
That sums it up.
And have you been playing anything else interesting? I've been playing a bit of Resident Evil Village.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
I'm extremely keen to hear what you think about that.
Okay, I'll tell you real quick. I wasn't going to because I don't really like being scared in games. But my niece out of nowhere, who I had no idea, she's like, oh, I've been watching your channel. I watch you play Resident Evil 7. Are you going to play 8? Go, okay, I will now.
Cool.
It's a pretty good experience. It's way more actiony. It's not very scary at all. It's kind of, there's some like gross out moments. It's a nice looking game, you know. It's like a good showcase for the system. It loads well. It's very smoothly, very nicely executed and done. The puzzles aren't really a pain in the ass. It tries to hit you with jump scares. Resident Evil 7, I went through and the whole time I was like, oh, everything is awful. Everything's awful. And then this is the total opposite. This is like, at least in the first castle, like everything's like very decadent and nice. But yeah, I don't find it really. I feel like that Capcom team, because they drifted away from scary with 5 and 6. They liked action, and they're like, okay, fine, we'll give you a scary one, and then they're like, okay, back to the action. So if I didn't have people that were asking me to play it, I wouldn't have played it. I think it's perfectly good. I find the main character really unlikable. I want him to die and get hurt, so that is nice. But he's just so stupid, and I just like his relationship with the villagers doesn't really make a lot of sense. And have you played it at all?
Just one of the demos, which left me a little lukewarm. I was never gonna like pre-order it and get it on launch day. I am interested to play it because I like spooky stuff. And if it tells a good story, I kind of like that they're going with like a zany cast of characters. I feel like they touched on something weird and different with 7, having the family. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like that they're pushing forward with that and having just this really weird cast instead of having like more of a military meets zombie horror kind of thing. So I'll play it one day. But yeah.
It's more like a sexy game. I mean, I'm at this part where like really beautiful women are chasing me around and I'm like, oh no, don't catch me. Whereas like Resident Evil 7, also Resident Evil 7, the whole time I thought I should be playing this in VR. There's so many cool moments where they're right in your face.
Yeah.
But in Resident Evil 7, it was like in your face and you're like, oh, get away. And this one, you're like, oh wow, that girl's so hot. And now she's biting my neck. This is nice. I'm not scared, but at all. And even like this Lady Dom, who has been the forefront of the marketing,
right?
When she's chasing you around, it's I think it's because I know I can't hurt her and I know that I can easily outrun her. It's not a very difficult game. Somebody did recommend to me that I should play it on a higher difficulty, and I didn't. And it's just kind of it's just not that scary. Other than when they do a jump scare, and I'm a big critic of jump scares because it's anybody can do that.
Yeah.
If you want a really spooky game, anyone out there, Stories Untold is a real spooky game. It's a visual novel type adventure game with nice graphics. You can get it for like
Okay.
really cheap on PC. That's beautiful tension done.
Okay.
Is there anything?
I love that.
Oh yeah, it's a 4 episode game. It's got this kind of like 80s vibe, sort of like Stranger Things style. And you do
Okay.
there's like 4 episodes and there are different styles of kind of like visual adventure, point and click stuff. You do puzzles, but there's so much tension and they never ever jump scare you. And
Nice.
when I was playing it, I'm like, my heart is in your hands. I am so tense. Don't break my trust.
Don't cheapen it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't do it. It's just amazing. And like
Nice.
every step you solve in the puzzle, you're like getting one step closer. You're like, oh, I don't want to be there. Oh, it's so good. So yeah, Resident Evil 8. It's perfectly nice, a nice experience, but it's not something I would love. Is there anything really good you've been playing?
Well, I've really been enjoying Yakuza 7.
Okay. How do you like the turn-based change?
Quite a lot. There's more grinding than I thought there would be, but they lean into, obviously sometimes for comedic effect and because there's a whole meta commentary about JRPGs, but they do lean into it being a JRPG, and usually it's to great effect. And I really it just feels like a love letter to the Yakuza series and to JRPGs generally. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's very charming, and you're familiar with the Yakuza. You're much more familiar with the Yakuza series than I am, but as you know, they have a way of like touching on some really deep themes in a really thoughtful adult way.
Yeah.
They can navigate the tonal shift of like absolute slapstick comedy to really emotionally like gut wrenching themes. And they do that very, very well. Mm-hmm. I've really been liking that a lot.
Yeah. I would definitely describe the best written Yakuza stuff as it's like there's some of the best crime drama tension ever, and then like super goofy but always trying to make a bit of a point. I think my all-time favorite scene in Yakuza is in Zero when Goro is talking to the Yakuza boss with the shorter hair, and he's trying to get Goro to do something, and Goro's trying to hide something from him, and there's every line has like double meaning because the guy's trying to insinuate that he is also lying to him, and I got chills just thinking about it. It was like so masterfully done that it was such a letdown when I went to Kiwami 1 and 2 because they were written by other people and they're like so primitive and so
super
basic.
edgy.
Yeah, and there's that annoying cop lady. But once I got back to 3 and 4, I believe that those are all written by the same team as Zero. And it's basically like, other than 1 and 2, it's the same team all the way through. Have you played the other Yakuza games?
Just Zero, which I didn't finish, and
That's the best
I will
one
get back to it. Yeah, I was having a ball with it, and it really just opened up. I got to Majima's story, and I think I was just at the point where you can start kind of messing around in the cabaret and start that whole side quest, and stopped there for no particular reason. Just maybe I was working on something or had other reviews. I forget why I stopped, but
it was a bit of a slow start.
I'd have to like relearn all the combos, and like I totally forgot what I had unlocked or how to fight and switching positions.
You have plenty of times to practice on the streets and Komucho.
That's true.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for doing this. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me back.
Anything you wanted to promote?
Not really. It's kind of weird now. I don't have stuff to plug. Just be nice to each other.
Oh, that's nice.